Good morning, students. Shall we start?
Good morning, ma'am.
Very good morning. Shall we start?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes? Okay, good. Please, all of you, mute your mic, okay? And the entire lecture is being recorded. Students, mind it. Please mute your mic. If you have any query and all, you can put it in the comment box, okay? ठीक है?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now mute your mic. Servicer has joined. Students? Anybody? Servicer join हुए क्या?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
He was about to join. I sent him the message also. I'll call him just 1 minute. सर आप ज्वाइन हो रहे हैं, हम वेट कर रहे हैं आपके लिए. स्टूडेंट्स ने बोले नहीं. अच्छा अच्छा, ओके सर. हाँ सर, ज्वाइन हो गए. ओके. So, Sarve sir, Seema, Kavita, and all students, a very good morning to all of you. And today we have assembled here for the online guest lecture. And first of all, it's going to be a very informal one. It is not a formal one like any program or function. It's just going to be a very informal one. My aim behind is just to introduce the concept of mathematical models and mathematical modeling, because in the new syllabus it's being introduced. Your next year onwards, students will be learning one unit of mathematical modeling, but for your batch it is not there. So it's just an idea that we can introduce the basics of mathematical modeling to you. And I'll just introduce in 10 to 15 minutes. I'll give the introduction of mathematical modeling. Then Dr. Seema Raut from Raisoni College will be giving you some just two models she'll be explaining. Okay, that's the plan of today's guest lecture. Okay, and at the end we have this will be from 11:30 to 1 o'clock. Okay, and at the end of the lecture, 10 minutes is allotted for your queries and questions. So if you have any queries or questions regarding the subject or anything, then you can send it through comment box. Okay, you can type in the comment box. At the end we will see, and the last 10 minutes you are welcome to ask your queries and questions. Okay, so now before that's it, without wasting any time, I'll start my introduction part. And I just want to introduce Seema before that, because it'll be better before my lecture if I introduce. I'm very happy and glad to introduce Dr. Seema Raut, Associate Dean, Academics and Assistant Professor from GH Raisoni Institute of Engineering and Technology, Nagpur. Why I'm glad and happy? Because she's my PhD doctorate student, and now she herself is a recognized PhD supervisor of Raisoni University, Amravati, and Raisoni University, Sai Kheda. And I should say that she's a very sincere and dedicated student. Now she's not my student, but still I would say that. Okay. And she has presented nearly 10 papers in national and international conferences and published 7 papers also. And her title of thesis is that is PhD thesis is applications of differential equations and graph theory in mathematical modeling. And she has 12 years of experience, and her field of interest mathematical modeling, biomathematics, graph theory. And she has secured second position in mathematics seminar competition, and she is a reviewer in Journal of Scientific Research, and also reviewer in the International Conference on Research Frontiers in Science. Okay. Organized by the Department of Basic Sciences, Roy Soni College of Engineering. She's also a life member of Indian Society of Technical Education and Indian Mathematical Society. There are many other things which I can tell today about her, but due to lack of time, I stop here. So she will be continuing after I finish my introduction of mathematical modeling. Okay, so now I'll start my introduction, an introduction to mathematical modeling. And outline of my this introduction part is this way. That is, first thing is that about the mathematical models and mathematical modeling. Because most of the students, you would not have heard about this model, mathematical model and modeling. CBSE, it was there in 12th standard. I don't know how many of you have learned. So what is mathematical model and what is mathematical modeling, that we'll see. Then fields of application where we can apply mathematical modeling. Then the methodology and schematic diagram of mathematical models, and why and where we can use. Okay, why are we using mathematical modeling? What is the need and where can we use? Okay, and the next one is a procedure, a methodology of solving any problem through mathematical modeling. And the last one is about the classification of mathematical modeling. How many ways we can classify mathematical modeling, that will be seen. Okay, and it's going to be a very brief introduction. If you are interested in this topic, mathematical modeling and some different types of models, if you want to know, then you can always tell us. So with the permission of servicer and principal, we can conduct some more lectures on mathematical modeling. Okay, so it is up to you. This is just introduction. Okay, so now what is a mathematical model and what is a mathematical modeling? A mathematical model is nothing but a description of real system using mathematical concept and language. Okay, that means what is a model? It is just a description of real system. So in real world, you must be having so many system or so many real world problems. Those can be converted into a mathematical problem using mathematical concept and language. Mathematical concept and mathematical language, and that is called a mathematical model, a description of real system. Description, of course, mostly it will be using mathematical equations only. And then what is a mathematical modeling? This process of developing or constructing mathematical model is called the mathematical modeling. This procedure of constructing or formulating mathematical equations or mathematical model is called mathematical modeling. Okay, so they are interrelated. Model, if you construct, then that is called modeling. And mathematical modeling is a very emerging trend, I should say, an emerging subject in mathematics, because it's being applied everywhere in other subjects. And that's what I have shown here. What is the field of application? See, I can say in a very short way that I think, according to my knowledge, except your languages like Hindi, Marathi, English, etc., except your languages, mathematical modeling can be applied everywhere and anywhere in any subject. But we cannot list, so we have listed a most prominent and interesting applications only. In natural sciences, that is sciences, we can say physics, chemistry, biology, life sciences, agriculture, ecology, it goes on. And mostly, where it is applied mostly is engineering disciplines. All engineering disciplines, they definitely use mathematical modeling, like right from civil, electronics, electrical, and computer science, IT, everywhere it is used. And economics is another very, very important discipline where mathematical modeling is used. And non-physical system, if you take, that means not related to sciences, then sociology, philosophy, history, psychology, everywhere it is used. Okay, so that's why it is the need of the hour to learn about mathematical modeling. Then what does mathematical modeling do actually? Okay, what is the process? There were three important things. First one is that it translates. Second one, it solves. Third one, it interprets. So it translates what? It translates real world problems into mathematical problems, as I explained you. And then the next one is that it solves these mathematical problems. How does it solve? By constructing mathematical models or constructing equations or whatever it be. Okay, so from the real world problem, we will be solving them by constructing the mathematical models. And then finally, after solving it, we have to interpret these solutions of the model in the language of real world. If it is not again connected to real world, there is no meaning of mathematical model and it will be a flaw. So interpreting our conclusion is very, very important. So this is shown in the next slide as a schematic diagram. You register this schematic diagram. This is the skeleton of this. First thing, it is written as real problem. In schools, you may call it as a word problem, isn't it? Word problem or real world problem, all are one and the same. That is being converted to mathematical problem. How do we convert? For that, we need mathematics. That their mathematical brain is applied. We convert to mathematical problem. We introduce some parameters. We remove some parameters. Then we construct it. After constructing the mathematical problem or mathematical model, we then have to solve it. Here again comes the mathematical brain. There are different tools in mathematics. Okay, differential equation, difference equation, graph theory, computers, so many things are there. So we have to choose aptly, okay, suitably the mathematical tool to solve the mathematical model or problems. And then it goes to interpretation and conclusion. This is the most important thing. You have to interpret, you have to conclude, and then you have to compare with the real problem. That's why the arrow mark again goes to the real problem. If you cannot conclude it, relate to your or relate it with the real world problem or the problem which you took from the real world, then the mathematical modeling will not be a success. So that is very, very important. How we do it, that we will see in short. Okay. Now, why and where to use mathematical model? Okay, here I have given very basic example right from trigonometry, geometry, agriculture, everything. Just one or two lines I have given, but this is not the end. Okay, infinite number I should say. Okay, n number of applications are there where we can use mathematical modeling. So first, you have to understand why it is used. By using mathematical modeling, we can find the values or parameters of the problem without actually measuring. See, many times in our real world, we cannot measure anything, something directly. There we apply the mathematics. The very basic example from your school is that the problem of trigonometry, you must be remembering, finding the height of a tower, elevation or something else, angle of elevation, etc. Like Pisa Tower, Burj Khalifa. There are so many tall towers where you cannot climb and measure. So what we do, we construct mathematical modeling. Here trigonometry modeling will be used to find out the angle of inclination, height of the tower, everything. That means I want to say that right from school you are learning mathematical modeling without knowing that those are the models. Okay, you must be just knowing that there are those were the word problems. And then the temperature at the surface and the center of the sun. Nobody can reach near sun, but we can find out the temperature inside center of the sun and at the surface. How? By constructing mathematical models. Okay. Then we can find out the population of China after 30 years, 2050. How? That also using extrapolation and mathematical models. Then in agriculture, there's just one or two examples I'm giving, as I told you. In agriculture, average yield per acre of rice or paddy or anything you can find out using models. Agricultural models, those are called. And then you can measure the distance of stars, satellites, etc. astronomically, or you can say cosmology anywhere. So these are few examples I have given where you cannot actually measure. You have to use mathematical modeling. And it's being used for years together, centuries together. And this is one simple example. I don't want to go through this. Just I wanted to tell right from school, how are we using? You must have come across with these types of word problems. Age of father is 4 times age of son. After 5 years, age of father will be 3 times age of son. Then you find out age of father and son in schools, isn't it? So what we do is that is a real world problem, a biological question, algebra. Biological means age related is biological question. So what we do is that we convert to algebraic, basic algebraic problem. We take x as age of father, y as age of son, and then we construct mathematical equation, algebraic equations. And by system of equations, you solve those and you get the value of x as 40 and y as 10. So is it the end? No. Actually, you relate it with the exact real world problem. Is it really true? Age of father is 40 and age of son is 10. If it is right, then that means your model, your construction of equations is right. If you have made any mistake in the equation, constructing the equation, then definitely you will get the Wrong answer. That means from school we are using mathematical model for physical, biological, social, for any problem. Okay, now this is basically formal procedure of solving mathematical model. The first thing is that you have to identify the problem, relate the problem with mathematics, where some parameters are involved. See here, what was the parameter in the previous example? Age. X is the age of the father, like that. So in that was a very simple example. If you go for higher studies, you may be having a number of parameters that you have to identify. Okay, so suppose you have to transport something, how many kilos you have to, and what should be the speed of the vehicle, etc., etc. So there are so many parameters involved that you have to identify, and you have to decide that which are the parameters to be kept and which are the parameters that's to be discarded. Okay, and then formulate the model. Formulate means construct the equations or whatever. Okay, then you solve. How will you solve? Using analytical method or numerical method or simulation. There are a number of methods in maths to solve it. Then error analysis is very important. You analyze, you find out the error in our model. If the error is within the permitted limit or acceptable limits, then your model is a success. If the error is more than the limit, what should you do? You have to again think about the parameters, again go to the first step, change the model, reconstruct the model, again check, do the error analysis till you get the error within the acceptable limits. And then what do? You solve it, compare the predictions with the available observations or the data, if you have any data with you. And then you deduce the conclusion and test them against the earlier data. This test is mostly done statistically. Not all models we do the test. Most of the statistical models, they do the test, and then that means your model is a success. So this is the basic procedure for solving the problem, basic way we solve any problem. Or I can call it as a methodology. Okay, so now classification. This I want to tell you because how many ways you can classify mathematical modeling. Basically, there are four important ways. The first one is the subject matter. Second one is mathematical technique. Third one is the purpose or aim or goal. Fourth one is the types of mathematical tools. What is subject matter? So it is like mathematical physics, theoretical chemistry, biology, life science, engineering, psychology, economics, sociology, depending upon the subject. Now I have highlighted life sciences because Seema Raut is going to take one model on life sciences, that is epidemiology. That is our main project. Okay, that was the main project. So that subject matter. The second one is mathematical techniques. Based on mathematical techniques we are going to apply, we have to decide which are the techniques we have to apply. We can classify. And there are many mathematical techniques, but being final year students of BSc, whatever you know, I have given only that. That is differential equations. You are very familiar with ordinary and partial differential equations. They are the most used technique in mathematical modeling. Then difference equations, which you learned in first year, those are the discrete for the discrete functions. Then matrices, that is used in computerized one algorithm and all. You must be knowing that. Final year students, computer students, you must be knowing. Then graphs, it's not your usual school graph. There's some branch called graph theory, that is a discrete one, discrete mathematics. So using that, we can solve ecological problems, etc. Then integral equations, I don't think you'll be knowing. So other things I am not going to discuss. Why again I have highlighted graphs discrete? Because Seema Raut is going to take one model on graphs, that is graph theory based. That will be quite interesting in ecology. Okay. So now the third one is purpose or aim. That means we have some purpose, isn't it, when you construct the problem. So based on that, we can classify. Prediction. Prediction means, like I said, China's population after 30 years. So that means we have to predict it. So this is one way. Your aim is to predict. Describe means just describe the problem, insight of that problem. Optimization, this is in operations research, discrete mathematics. And if you go for MBA and MCA, you must be knowing this optimization techniques. So this is very much used in mathematical modeling. Then control, like you have this COVID-19, this epidemic. This is an epidemic, isn't it? How to control the epidemics. So this is majorly used there in epidemiology and population control also. And then the last one is action. There are many action. I have given just one example. Prevention. Again, like COVID-19, how can you prevent this epidemic? So there are many ways we can model mathematically to prevent it. So this was the third one, that is purpose-wise we can classify. And last and most important is types of tools in mathematics. Okay, linear or non-linear. These are the types of the models. Linear or non-linear, differential or difference equations. You are familiar with linear and non-linear. Static and dynamic, that means time variation. If the time is moving, we are going to involve the time, then it is dynamic model. If it is at rest, then static model. Discrete or continuous, depending on the variable, you must be knowing well, continuous variables and discrete variables we have used in difference equation. So depending on the discrete or continuous function, we can model it. And the last one is deterministic and deterministic or stochastic. This is basically a statistical model, which I don't want to take up. Okay. So this was my introduction. Of course, I rushed because I wanted to give more time to Seema. So if you have any doubt in my presentation or introduction, later on at the end of the lecture, 10 minutes will be allotted, you can ask, or in the next coming lectures also you may ask. Okay. So I thank you. Now I request Seema Rao to present her lecture on two basically basic and very important model. Okay. Thank you, students, and I invite now Seema.
Uh, Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Now we can proceed.
It's an honor to me get introduced by Sujata, ma'am. Because whatever I have learned about mathematical modeling is all because of her only, and such a good topic I have researched in. So now I'm going to deliver a class on construction of some mathematical models. So I have researched on epidemiology and ecological models. So I'm going to describe these two models today. So about mathematical modeling on epidemics and ecology. Why I have choose or
Seema, just 1 minute, you can maximize your screens.
okay, ma'am. So these epidemic models are of greater concern and significance because they facilitate in serving the society. And landscape ecological models help significantly in landscape management and hence the ecosystem. Applications of mathematical models on epidemics now we see. We are already going through a pandemic now. The threat we know, the threat of this increasingly spreading infectious diseases has always been a huge concern to public health. So qualitative and quantitative analysis of these disease dynamics provide a base to prevent and control such diseases. Prevention and control strategies are made prepared with better estimation of parameters, as we have to identify the parameters which are involved in, as Sujata ma'am told, in the disease dynamics. So prevention and control strategies are prepared using this parameter and a better estimation of these parameters and factors. Computer simulations help significantly in exposure of on transmission pattern of epidemics. Now we see what is epidemiology first, and then we see some epidemic models. So epidemiology is the branch of medicine that investigates the causes and control of epidemics. The utility of mathematical epidemiology is to understand behavior and causes of infectious disease. So how and why the infectious disease occurs, that we have to understand first. Then mathematical models on epidemics are used in comparing, planning, implementing, evaluating, and optimizing various detection, prevention, therapy, and control programs. These models can be used to predict the spread or incidence of a disease. Now we see what is the history of this mathematical epidemiology. Mathematical epidemiology was introduced by Daniel Bernoulli in 1760. In 1906, Hammer postulated that the course of an epidemic depended on the rate of contact between susceptible and infectious individuals. Ross used the principles the rate of spread of an infection within a population is proportional to the product of the density of susceptible and infectious people in his early work on the dynamics of malaria transmission. Ross built vector host mathematical model on the transmission of malaria. The insight of Hammer and Ross was further developed by Kermack and McKendrick in 1927, and this was the first SIR model. So now we see what are the compartment models. See, there are many compartment models such as SI, SIR, SIRS, SEIR, SEIRS, SEI, etc. are various compartment models. We see the basic model now, that is SI model. A schematic diagram of it is shown here. You can see here susceptible and infectious compartment. What do you mean by susceptible? The total population before the infection is come into this susceptible compartment. When susceptible individuals get the infection, they move into the infectious class with the infection rate lambda here. So S is the class of susceptible individual and I is the class of infected individual. Then the SIR model. What is SIR model? SI model only that we have seen, there are only two compartments, that is susceptible and infectious. But when the individuals get recovered with the permanent immunity means they, after the recovery, they will not be infected with the same disease again, that will come in the recovered class. So if individuals recover with the permanent immunity, then the simplest model is SIR model, and this is the schematic diagram. So lambda is the infection rate and gamma is the recovery rate. So how to model this, that we see in the next slide. So SIR model, we now see Kermack-McKendrick model, that is the SIR model for the closed infected population. The model is a system of a three nonlinear ordinary differential equation. You can see here, rate of change of susceptible individual, that is ds by dt, is given by minus lambda si. Means the individuals which get the infection, they will be subtracted from the susceptible class. Then rate of change of infected individual is equal to lambda si minus gamma I, means infected individuals are added in the infected class and recovered infected individuals will be subtracted. Then dr by dt, third equation for the class of recovered individuals, that is equal to gamma I, where lambda is the infection rate and gamma is the recovery rate. Now we see how these models are used, or how the models are worked. So basic reproduction number R naught plays a very important role in disease dynamics. What is this basic reproduction number? The average number of secondary infections produced by when one infected individual is introduced in the totally susceptible population. When one infected individual, you can just imagine, when one infected individual moves into the totally susceptible population, the secondary infections caused by him is called as basic reproduction number. So R naught plays a role in public health decisions. How? When R naught less or equal to 1, no epidemic can occur, and when R naught is greater than 1, epidemic results. So we have to work after the modeling of the epidemic disease. So we have to work on this basic reproduction number, means how to keep this R naught less or equal to 1. If the introduction of a few infective individuals in total population does not result in an epidemic, that is number of infective tends to 0, then there exists disease-free equilibrium. Means what? When R naught is less than 1, means very few infective individuals are there in the population, and they eventually tends to 0, then disease-free equilibrium occurs. And if the disease persists in the population, that steady state solutions are called as endemic equilibriums. As per the recent trends, we choose the values of parameters by testing or by verifying that they satisfy the conditions and the biological meaning of the respective problems, and carry out the simulation using MATLAB and Simulink. We also apply the whatever be the results we get from the model, theoretical results, we validate them using the simulation method. And the parameters we use in it, values of the parameters by the available literature or from the available data. Then numerical simulation, you can see when R naught is less or equal to 1, this so susceptible population, the graph shows, you can see here, this is constant. Total number of susceptibles are constant there, and infected individuals and recovered individual tends to 0. And in this, you can see the second graph where R naught is greater than 1. First, the infected individual goes on peak, and then they achieve a steady value. And same is the case with S and susceptible individuals and recovered individuals also. It is given here also. Figure 1 shows that S of t approaches steady state value where I and R tends to 0. Hence, the disease goes to extinct when R naught is less than 1. And when R naught is greater than 1, S of t and R of t approach the steady state values, while I of t increases first and attains a steady state value, and epidemic occurs. So the epidemic models helps to throw the new insights into the mechanism of population dynamics of infectious diseases, to integrate the interacting components of the system so that the behavior and causes of the disease can be understood. They are used to predict the spread and to find the effects of preventive measures, to test the understanding of the disease epidemiology by comparing model results and observed patterns. Public health organization use this model to evaluate and develop disease outbreak policies for epidemics, and simulation helps to understand whatever data we get. Simulation helps to validation of the data. Modeling of some vector-borne diseases. So we are going through a pandemic now. You all are aware about it. It is a vector-borne epidemics, coronavirus. No, so the infectious diseases caused by viruses, bacteria, protozoa, etc., are called vector-borne diseases, and the disease-transmitting agents are called vectors. So transmitting agent, the viruses or bacteria, are called as vectors. So simple epidemic models do not account for the interaction of more than one species or host population. So we have discussed some simple models. So this research is going on. For many researchers are working on vector host models, which predicts the disease or the disease dynamics well. Incidence of many vector-borne epidemics has been reported universally in recent years. So parasites, viruses, and bacteria are transmitted by vector, flies, mosquitoes, snails, ticks, and other vector amongst animal and people. Vector-borne diseases become a huge public health problem as they spread rapidly within the population. Vector-borne diseases are one of the leading cause of death worldwide every year. These diseases have the major impact on economy. The number of vector has been increasing globally due to rapid international travel. We are all aware now with this well, the diseases are growing, spreading increasingly because of rapid international travel, global trade, changes in climate, and speedily growing urbanization. So the vector-borne diseases can be controlled if preventive actions such as access to quality health care, early diagnosis of the disease, reduction of the breeding sources of vectors, sanitation, etc., will help in reducing disease transmission. Preventive measures taken by hosts to be immune from the disease and to control vector population are not enough to eliminate the disease from the population, which may result in future epidemics. The psychological and social factors results in better incidence rates to chalk out the public health policies. Are you all aware of this psychological and social factors? We can connect it with our behavior. When in January or February, when the disease was not there, what we were doing? We mask wearing and sanitization. We just we have not using those which we have done in April and May. No, so this psychological factors and social factors are also plays very important role in disease dynamics, and obviously this will help to chalk out the health policies. Now vaccination policies, and when many policies made by government using this mathematical models, these were helped to make this public health policies. Now we see what are landscape ecological model. Landscape ecology is the science of studying and improving the relationship between spatial pattern of urban development and ecological processes. The graph construction method of describing landscape structure is useful for ecological modeling of landscape functioning and future changes that result from interaction between adjacent ecosystems. The identified landscape patterns represent the configuration of the landscape and hence useful for landscape planning and management and for better ecological understanding. Graph models are useful in integrating ecological and management issues for research and land planning purposes. So graph modeling of the landscapes are used to measure the ecological effect and then to make landscape management policies. MD Cantwell et al. Applied graph theoretic approach to ecology in landscape connectivity and population connectivity. A.G. Boone used focal species analysis to apply a graph theoretic approach to landscape connectivity and demonstrated the utility of a mathematical graph as an ecological construct and respect to habitat connectivity. D.L. Urban considered the graph model parameterization, model testing, insights and prediction available through graph analysis and potential implication for conservation, biology and applications. Methodology to construct the graph models, landscape models, to develop a method that reduces complex landscapes to a common graph model, to use graph construction method to draw and analyze two landscape graphs using the aerial photographs, to determine the most and least connected elements types in a landscape, to construct an adjacency or connectivity matrix from landscape graphs to understand the connectivity of elements. Now we see some basic definitions of graphs and then we see a model on it. A graph is said to be connected if any vertex can be reached from any other vertex by traveled along the edges. You can see these two vertices are connected because you can reach from this vertex to this by traveling from this edge. No? So, but yes, every node is connected with every other node in this graph. So connectivity is measured by the degree of a node, which is defined as the number of edges connected to a given node. You can see, we consider this node now. Here, a degree of this node is 5 because this is connected with 5 edges. And adjacency matrix is a binary n cross n matrix A in which entries aij will be 1 if node vi is adjacent to node vj and 0 otherwise. The reachability matrix is the sum of the adjacency matrix and all matrices that itemize indirect paths between nodes of the graph. Hence, R is equal to, this reachability matrix is equal to A plus A square plus A cube till AN, where N is equal to the maximum number of steps to traverse the graph. Landscape mosaics are described by the landscape components of patches, corridors, and the surrounding matrix. What do you mean by patches? Patches are the basic units of the landscape that change and fluctuate. Corridors are elongated patches that connect other patches together. Matrix is the background ecological system of a landscape with a high degree of connectivity. Graph construction method used to analyze connectivity and reachability, which is an effective approach for exploring landscape patterns. Connectivity matrices are constructed from landscape graphs to understand the accessibility. Now we see how to model a landscape in the graph. So you can see a landscape mosaic here where urban matrix, farmland matrix, woodland patch, wetland patch, and grassland patch is there. So urban matrix, we may we denote it by U. Farmland matrix denote by F. Woodland patch by WD. Grassland patch by G. Wetland patch by WT. And you can see there is connectivity between U to F. Now, urban matrix to farmland matrix are connected. So we draw an edge between U to F. Then farmland matrix and woodland patch is connected. So we draw an edge between F and WD. There is no direct connection between urban matrix to woodland patch. So we have not drawn any edge between these two. Then grassland patch we denote by G, and it is connected to urban matrix and the woodland patch. Then this also to farmland matrix. Then farmland matrix is connected to grassland patch and wetland patch. So thus we have constructed this graph, and from this graph we can have a adjacency matrix. A is equal to, you can see here we have noted one column and one row for each node. For U, first row is there. For F, first row and first column is there. For F, it is second row and second column respectively, till for G, WD and WT. So where if in between U to U, you can see there is no, if loop is there, you can write 1 there, but we have write 0 because no edge is between U to U. Then for U to F, we have written 1 because there is an edge between U to F. Then U to G also there is an edge, so we have write 1 there. Then U to WD, no edge is there, you can see, so we have written 0 there. Then WT, U to WT, again no edge is there, so we have written 0 again. So in this way you can form an adjacency matrix, and after having adjacency matrix you can calculate the reachability matrix. How to calculate reachability matrix? R is equal to A plus A square plus A cube plus till A to the power n. So we have to find all A plus A square plus A cube, and then you add them, so you will get the reachability matrix. So in this way, by using this graph model, we can find the connectivity between all these patches of landscape mosaic. Okay, so in this landscape mosaic, all the separated sections are connected to each other. You can see how they are connected. U is not directly connected to WD, but it is connected like U to F and then F to WD. So they are all reachable to each other. Then now we see some graph patterns which are useful to get the result from the models. Some of the common patterns in the landscape graphs. First one is spider. What is spider? A graph figure with a central node and more than 4 linkages to other landscape element nodes is called a spider. You can see the first figure here, this one, where one node is connected to more than 4 linkages, so it is called as spider. The central or spider node is often the matrix. Then next is candelabra. It represents a landscape element separating one element on one side from many elements on the other side. You can see in candelabra, one element on one side and many elements on the other side. Then the satellites. It's a patch surrounded by a single element type. Then necklace nodes are the same landscape elements type linked together to form a pattern called necklace pattern. And then the component section formed by the interconnecting necklace network are called graph cells. Now we see landscape graph model of Gadchiroli. So this first figure you can see, this is the aerial photograph taken from Google of Gadchiroli, and then we prepared a graph on it in the second figure. So landscape elements observed in this model are F, L, R, H, and D. So F denotes forest, L lake, R river, H houses, and D dry land. So graph patterns observed here are, you can see, necklace and graph sales by roads and power lines, necklace and graph sales by roads and power lines, satellites by isolated wetlands, and field and spider by lake. So ecological and management implications of this graph models. The necklace pattern, more landscapes resistance, less of barrier effect for an animal. Decreasing graph cell size, increasing human population. Graphs, if there is decrease in graph cell size, means there is increasing human population. Graph cells denotes good access from all sides. No. Then spider pattern suggests strong exchanges across the patch matrix boundaries. These landscapes areas need careful monitoring. Satellite pattern, the patch which is in danger of disappearing, and so constant monitoring and active management is needed. For example, oasis in a desert. The candelabra pattern is connected to many other elements on one side and to one element on the other side. Connectivity of landscape elements. Connectivity is the most common measure of how connected a corridor, network, or matrix is. Ecologically, high connectivity implies much interaction or movement of animals, plants, heat energy, water, and materials among elements. Connectivity or adjacency is measured by the degree of a node, which is defined as the number of linkages connected to a given node. In landscape graphs, where linkages represent neighboring elements, the degree of a node of any given landscape element is an indication of how accessible that element is. So this is the presentation of landscape graph model of Gadchiroli. Here we illustrate the method of determining the interaction among the selected landscape elements, namely F, L, R, H, and D, in the landscape graph of Gadchiroli. Thus, we can see that the connectivity matrix is used to determine interaction between non-adjacent elements, such as animals in two woods separated by a field. Reachability matrices R of a landscape are useful for understanding landscape resistance or animals and plant dispersion across a landscape. In the landscape graphs illustrated here, house clearings, woods, and fields are the most connected landscape element types. Each graph has a specific pattern of nodes and linkages. Necklace and spider patterns are found in all these graphs. The pattern identified here represent the configuration of the landscapes and hence useful for landscape planning and management and for better ecological understanding. The graphs depict highly connected linear elements which divide the landscape into component cells. High connectivity implies much interaction or movement of animals, plant, heat energy, water, and materials among elements. Thus, graph modeling of this landscape play an important role in landscape management policies. I'm showing you one pattern. See, this spider pattern is there, and in this aerial photograph also. So, application of this model is, see, when application of this landscape model is there in army also, you can see such a node which are connected to the many roads, you can say. So this, if this node is destroyed, the many terrorist lands, the aerial photographs of it are used, and then if such a node is destroyed, then connectivity between all of this is destroyed. So this is very helpful in army also. So this is all about epidemiological models and ecological models which are useful in serving the society. So this is that's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Seema. It was very informative. Now the time is left now. Students, if you have any doubt or any queries, you can ask. Actually, what she wanted to tell at the end was about the army one. This we got to know after the presentation for her Viva. After PhD, the expert came from MP. He told us this information that this model is very much used in this, what can we say, army, navy, and other things, especially where the terrorists are hidden. So now they find out using the Google app and all where the hideouts. Like you must have seen that Osama bin Laden. How did they find out the aerial view? They get that where they may be hiding using the informers, and then there may be connectivity from one bunker, one hideout to many other hideout. So what they do is that they plan the army. They plan very skillfully, and then they need not have to go and capture all the hideouts. Just one main hideout or one bunker or one important center they will destroy using bomb. So the connectivity gone. Connectivity in the sense not only that connectivity means it is maybe that food supply, electricity, and the terrorist movement, and the place itself becomes isolated once you disconnect or destroy using the bomb. So that landscape, not only landscape ecology, this graph theoretical models are mainly used in this way of army, and I can say defense. Not only army, even if it is navy or air force also they use it. And not only by the defense personnel, mainly it is used by the terrorists. Okay, they have all these good what can you say, spying system and all, they find out, and that's why they carry out. So knowledge of this landscape ecology is very much essential. Though it is very simple for you to understand it now, it is only the main patches of landscape we see around us. Like you have wood means dry land, a river, and then if you see in a large scale, entire Maharashtra, we can plan it for the water supply and electricity supply, everything it can be planned. So landscape management is a special department. Okay, not only that, only the about the landscape plan, township can be planned, factories can be planned, and like I said that food, electricity, everything can be planned using landscape management. So it's a vast subject. So our graph theory, subject graph, it's not your usual graph. It is a graph theory. We say discrete mathematics. Those who are going for higher studies in maths, they must be learning graph theory. So it's a beautiful subject. Those who are interested, you can have some good books also. I'll later on update the books used for this epidemiological model, ecological model, and basic mathematical modeling. I'll give the list of books you can refer, simple books, Indian authors and foreign authors you can refer. Okay, I'll give you and upload it. Now, if you have any doubt, anybody, you can ask me now. Anything, or you can ask Seema also.
Ma'am,
Yes.
general question, ma'am.
Hmm.
Ma'am, do you think some things can't be modeled?
Something?
Some things in this world can't be modeled, like human behavior or something?
No, there are psychological models. See, the psychologists, they use mathematical model of psychology. Only thing is that who can identify the parameter? As I told you, which cannot be modeled according to my knowledge, it is that languages. Languages you cannot model, isn't it? Linguistic, I can say. But psychology, there you use definitely mathematical model. The just identification of parameters is needed. What can you identify in a psychological behavior? So that can be model. Simulation we can use. Okay, given this type, asking this type of question, preparing this type of question, how will they behave? Okay, so the parameters you can identifying parameters and connecting it using mathematics is the main thing. I know for 100% that psychological models are there, behavioral models are also there.
Okay, ma'am. I mean, what basis you said that humanities? I mean, history you mentioned in a first
Is
slide. I didn't
history.
understand.
History means it is past and present. Okay, I can show some good models in history later on, but how it is used, that mainly the statistical models. Okay, you must have learned statistics, no, mean, mode, median, and there are so many chi test, t test, so many tests are there. So they can be applied to correlation you must have learned, isn't it? Correlate the earlier events and the new events, and then now what's going on, and before that how they must have done, because all historical events are not recorded. Even if it is recorded, what is the authenticity, isn't it? So you can I can say extrapolate the events. But history, if you mean that exact dates, year and all, they cannot be modeled, but there are many events that can be modeled.
Ma'am, one
Thank you.
question. The map which was shown to us,
Huh.
ma'am, on what basis do we decide the nodes which were taken on that map? Like, ma'am, I saw that there were some nodes at the intersection which are important, but there were many nodes which were on the middle of the road, like the where
Just
the
1 minute.
street is
Just
passing.
1 minute. Seema, can you show that
Yes.
Gadchiroli slide you show, Alex?
Just a minute, ma'am. Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, you can see that. For that, you should have some basic knowledge of landscape. What is landscape? I think all of you must be knowing. That is, see, if you take a township, if you take a forest area, there are so many things in the landscape. How do you landscape it? That means where is exactly the river, where is the wetland, where is the dry land, and that is mainly used to understand the nature of human movement and the animal movement. And about the fauna and flora, that's the botanical, how many trees are there, what type of forest is it, dense forest, can the human go there, so many things are there in landscaping. Okay, so here you can see that there is a very big green patch. Okay, so if you take that, if you, that is one of the most important one, and I think it was a green line, it is marked here, I cannot exactly see that. So you can see, you have to see, actually magnify and see the graph. Google Earth, it was taken, actually I took it from the Google Earth only. So you can see where is the wetland and whether it is connected or not. So Pranav, the answer is that connectivity decides everything. Okay, if you take two opposite lands, one dry land which is of no use, nobody is going there, that is of no use for us. For the landscape management, that is not used. But when you say, if you take a city like Nagpur, then is there any place which is not connected to any of the place, connected to any of the place? Is there any isolated place? So that's how they see that. Actually, it's a very small scale Gadchiroli. If you take the entire Maharashtra, entire state, entire country, then what is the connectivity? That's why we learn graph theory. Graph theory deals mainly with the connectivity. How connected we are, and how connected the patches, we call it. The technical words are patches. How connected the technical patches, that is very important. Now, can you ask exactly what's your question? Whether
Uh,
I'm
Ma'am, what I was saying is like we have one like patch of D, L, and R, ma'am, on
DL
the
is
top right
dry land,
corner of this
dry
corner.
land. Huh, dry
Yes,
land,
ma'am,
I
on
see.
the top right corner. Ma'am, there's
Huh.
this one single line passing through all of them. But looking at the map, isn't there also a possibility that we can have one perpendicular line going straight, going
This
from
one,
that D and
this one, this one.
ma'am, I'm unable to see which point you are pointing. Ma'am, at the top right corner, the D which we have.
Huh.
Ma'am, if we go directly below it, ma'am, there is a T junction on the
Huh.
of map and the map. So,
Yes.
isn't there a considerable possibility that the connectivity could also exist between that T
No,
junction
no,
and
no,
that D.
no. You can see, zoom and see it. I have studied it thoroughly. So this was my UGC minor project actually. So you can see that this land, the right hand side corner, nobody resides there. Nobody is there. Not even animals, human, nothing. And it is totally cut off from the T junction. You are saying. Behind the T junction, if you see, there are many connectivity. Connectivity doesn't mean only the road. Whether the animals pass, whether the humans go, okay, it's how we decide it. Absolutely, there is no connectivity from D, dry land it is. So
Yes.
dry land is least preferred. Nobody will go to the dry land there. Not even the animals are going. Animals, if they go, they leave some traces, isn't it? So it's being observed, and we have to keep a watch very carefully that whether is there any movement, or is of water flowing, or some energy flowing. Everything is calculated.
Okay, ma'am.
Any other question? Anybody? We have enough time, students. If you want any question, Pranav, if you want anything, you can ask. Anybody? Girls?
Ma'am,
Uh.
ma'am, this landscape, particular landscape graph comes under static or dynamic modeling?
No, this is coming under discrete model, the graph theoretical model. It is neither static nor dynamics. See, we classify according to the tool, isn't it? Here, the tool we are using in this particular landscape ecology, if you take landscape ecology, we are using only, what can I say, discrete model. Discrete model, and especially the graph theoretical model, we can say. So we don't connect it with the models of, what can I call it as, stochastic, deterministic, or linear, non-linear. Nothing is there. Okay. So here, graph theory is a very beautiful subject. In other universities, they have, I think they have in degree also. But here, somehow or other, in your university, that is not at all there. Therefore, we cannot make it. So now I'll make my presentation now, entire screen, and I'll show that how this is being in my PPT itself, because I'm not connecting my pen tablet. So I'll draw this. Suppose I have this map of some place, and here something is there, the wetland, here the greenland is there, and some river is passing on, and some water body. You cannot cross it. Or the mountain, suppose some big mountain is there, you cannot cross it. Then what to do to get the connectivity, and how important the connectivity, that is decided by the policies. Like you can say IFS, forest officers are there, forest department, they have to decide, do we need connectivity across the mountain to this place, to this place? If they decide, then they will think, they will use the graph theory to get that how possible it is to get connected. So suppose it is not possible to go through this mountain, then we use the graph theory. We draw this way, all the important patches, not every small patch. River you will mark, and then is it possible from this land which I'm marking L1, from L1 to river, is it possible? They check. If it is possible to connect, they put an arrow mark. And from here, can you cross the mountain and then go to this L2? It is not possible, means we won't connect this. So what to be done to get the connectivity? So now she explained one thing called reachability matrix. Had you observed it? There is a difference between connectivity. Adjacent matrix means if two nodes are adjacent, you mark it as 1. If they are not adjacent, then you mark it as 0, right? So it was 1 0 1 0, like you can say Boolean graph it is. So Boolean matrix. So 0 1 0 0. But what is reachability matrix? You get it as A plus A square. Suppose there are 5 nodes, we'll see how possible to traverse. And I'll A cube plus A power 4 plus A power 5, I say, isn't it? A power 4 plus A power 5. After that, you check the reachability matrix, whether all the entries are 1 or not. If all the entries are 1, then what is the meaning? Every patch is reachable, not adjacent, but it is reachable from every other patch. Suppose 1 0 0 1 and 0 0 0 1, then what is the meaning? It is the third one, L1, L2, L3. The third LAN is not reachable from the first LAN, and vice versa. Both the things are not possible. That means, however you try, they cannot be reached. So the policies will be changed by the landscape personalities. They will change how to get the better connectivity. So reachability matrix helps a lot. There are highly defined graphs also, but now I cannot go to all this because you don't know graph theory thoroughly, isn't it? So I cannot go for not reachability is a basic matrix through which you can talk about the connectivity, and they are done. Now here we have taken only, what can I say, only in a very small scale of 5 or 7 patches. But the landscape personals and the forest officer, they may be having 1,000 and odd number of patches. So how do? They make an algorithm and make programming, computerized programming, because graph theory is very much interrelated to computerized program softwares. So they make for 1,000 nodes, they define the graph, and then they immediately within seconds they find out the reachability and all, and then they make the flowchart and define and decide the policies by it. Actually, technically, if you see, there are much to learn in landscape ecology, but I have to confine myself, I have to restrict myself, because everything cannot be explained here for you, because there are limitations now. How much I can tell you till according to your final year maths, only that much I could explain. Otherwise, it's a very, very vast one. But if you are interested in mathematical modeling, and then you can go according to your optional subject. Electronics you can explore, computer science you can explore, then you can go for economics if you are interested in. So there are so many ways. I can suggest you good books if you are interested, and then I can send you through, post it in your WhatsApp group. Okay. Marciana, did I address your question? Anything else you want to ask?
No, ma'am, that's enough.
That's it. Anybody else? Yes, students?
So, ma'am, the graph theory which we are talking about, can it also be used for prediction of like the COVID pandemic which we are going through?
No,
So
no,
could
no.
it have been
No, no,
used
no,
to
no.
predict that?
No,
At
because
this,
I'll tell you that the reason is that graph theoretical modeling is a discrete modeling. That means number of patches. So it's a discrete one, not a continuous one. Okay, but if you go for this pandemic and all, there can be either stochastic model, statistical models, or the best one is differential equation. Differential equations of higher order, linear, non-linear. We have done her thesis is mainly in non-linear, and the parameters can be more and more. We can use that. See, the what we call is incubation period. See, for COVID, the period is 1 week. Say, how can we model using graph theory? Isn't it? So we need continuous functions. So we need that latent period, incubation period, and what are the measures can be taken. So you have to decide the parameters. Do you need the latent period? There are some diseases. Today you infect and tomorrow you get the fever. There's no incubation period. But there are some vector-borne diseases, they have definitely incubation period, like you have malaria, dengue, and all this. So there we need the differential equation. Difference equation can be used, but they don't give that much accurate modeling, accurate prediction. So graph theory cannot be used for this one. But you can go for statistical models using test and all.
okay, ma'am.
Okay. Any other questions, students? I didn't go through your question, the comment box. I think there are no questions in the comment box. If you can ask anything, girls, then you can ask me. Any other thing? Nothing? Girls? Okay. So actually we thought the time will be short. That's why we had to hurry. Otherwise, I could have taken some more time also. Doesn't matter. We'll wind up. And if you are interested, then you can tell me later. We can have some more lecture on specifically for some models of epidemics or some models of whatever physics or astronomy or cosmology. There are many, many models. Right from simple model, you can go little higher also. And those who want to go for MBA and all, you have business models. Those are totally different. Operations research, queuing theory, and we have so many things. Linear programming, dynamical programming, transportation problem. There are many things for, what can we say, this management studies also. A number of models are there. Actually, they use while they learn, while they present, while they do the project, while they go for job. Everywhere they use only mathematical modeling, but it is not called exactly mathematical modeling. Okay, so if you don't have any question, I thank Seema heartfully because you have made the good job that you could explain two models very nicely. So I thank on behalf of the students. Now, Sarve sir, can we wind up or have to say anything? Sir? Sarve sir is online. I don't know. I'll call sir. We'll wait till that. Sir is on. Sir, you're not audible. Sir, you're not audible. Mic switch off. Not. Not. Kavita? Sir, you are not at all audible.
Ma'am, sir is saying to conclude. He sent a message.
Send the message. Why, sir? I don't know. His mic is off, or I don't know. I can't hear him. So he is asking us to conclude. I'll take one geotag photograph with sir. Kavita, can you take geotag photograph? So just 1 minute. Okay, students, thank you very much. Actually, sir's mic is it cannot be audible. Otherwise, we would have concluded. So, thank you very much for attending the
Thank you, ma'am.
lecture in large number. We'll wind up this. Thank you, Seema. Thank you, Service sir, and Albert. Kavita, a big thank you to you. Kavita Gawad. Thank you. We'll wind up. Okay, sir. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Shall I leave, ma'am? Ma'am.